Do it like this, but for you I don't quit, no. Baby, can you dig your man? What is going on, guys? This is my final thoughts on The Stand 2020. This is the last of it, and I will never have another thought about it ever again. I should probably say right now that I'm not home, so normally when I do videos on The Stand or Stephen King books in general, I have that book with me as like a prop, but I'm not home because the weather's been really, really bad, so I can't get home. I have power, everything's fine. I have power, I have internet, I have heat, it's fine. It's no big deal. I just can't get home because the snow is crazy. But I have been reading Dreamcatcher, about that much into it. Really liking it, so there's not really any place I could put it. That's too close to the camera. So just know that I have this. I don't know. But yeah, so I'm just going to kind of go in category by category and talk about, hey Bucky, talk about why, like, so I'm going to look at it like the overview, the characters, the story, the world, and just kind of talk about the good and bad in every category, and then my final thoughts, and then the video will be over. So yeah, actually, I'll start at the very beginning. I was singing the song, this show's iteration of Baby Can You Dig Your Man, which is incredibly dope. For whatever reason, they didn't actually include it in the show. They just released it after the show was finished. I don't fully understand why they did that, but I do really like this version of the song. But so yeah, that's probably one of the best things about the series. Let's just jump into the characters real fast. So I'm kind of splitting the characters into three groups. The good, everyone. There's a couple characters I really like that are good. Pretty much every character is just there. And then there's a couple characters that I really, really don't like. And there's actually a fourth category, but I'll get to that in a second. So on the top category, we have Jovan Adepo as Larry Underwood. I think he's probably my favorite character. Well, in the story, Larry is one of my favorite characters. But I think that Jovan Adepo is very good, and he does a good job with what he's given. He's not given all that much to work with, but what he has, I think he does really well. Also, I don't remember the actor's name, but I really like Glenn Bateman. He's really great in this. From his performance, I've got a lot of Robert Downey Jr. vibes. Maybe comment down below if you've kind of felt that same way about him as well. I really liked Fiona Dourif, I think that's how you say her name, as the Rat Woman. She's really great because she is like different. It's almost like she's playing different characters. For a while, I thought they were different characters, but it's the same character, but she just has many different hats throughout the series, and she does that very well. I think I like what they did with Lloyd, but it's not a very good adaptation of Lloyd. But what they did, like the character that they presented was not anything like Lloyd in the book, but I still liked what they did. I thought it was funny and goofy, and what the actor did, I don't remember the actor's name, but what he did with that character was really a lot of fun to watch. Then you have pretty much everybody else. They're all there. Actually, how do I feel about Owen Teague as Harold Lauder? I'm not sure. There are some parts I really like, but some parts I don't know. I wouldn't put him up with with Larry and Glenn. I don't think he's quite that good. Some people do, but as that's tough. I think I'm gonna put him in with everybody else, honestly. Yeah, I didn't really have any strong feelings on Stu. I didn't really. Oh, wait. I do want to include Tom Cullen on the good tier. He was great. When I originally read The Stand, I didn't really have any strong feelings on Tom. I know that there's a lot of people who read The Stand that absolutely love that character, but after watching this series, I understand. I really like the way that they did Tom. in this series. So yeah, everybody else I didn't really have any strong feelings on. The one thing that would have been bad if there was more screen time was Whoopi Goldberg as Mother Abigail. She's in it just enough that it's manageable, but if there was more of her, it would have been not good, if that makes sense. I feel like maybe the same is true with Alexander Skarsgård as Randall Flagg, possibly. There are some parts I really like about that character, some parts I really don't. It is quite a different take than the Randall Flagg we see in the book. So people who prefer that accurate adaptation will be upset. I don't necessarily have a strong opinion on him. One thing I will say is that I don't necessarily get upset when an adaptation is different than the source material as long as it's still good. Just look at something like The Shining or Misery. I'm trying to think of another one. Jurassic Park, Jaws. There are some instances where Scott Pilgrim versus the World is a good example. There are some instances where the movie is quite a bit different than the source material, and in some instances that I presented it's actually better. But they're just equally good. They're very different, but they're both quite good. And I don't necessarily have an issue with it being different as long as it's still an entertaining piece of media. I don't have an issue with it. But yeah, that was my whole tangent about adaptation. The bad tier, we have right off the bat Kathleen, I don't remember. I think it's Catherine. I don't know. McNamara. Now, I was actually kind of excited when I found out they casted her as Julie Lowry. Huge fan. Julie Lowry's only in a couple scenes in the book, and I love her especially since she was in the her one scene in the original miniseries was very, very good. What was that actress's name? She was in Saw. I don't remember, but she was really great as Julie. And normally I'm a fan of McNamara, but for whatever reason, it was just kind of like what I said with Mother Abigail. They just put too much of this character in this series, and they overplayed their hand. And a lot of times I'm just not a fan of this. Is there anyone else that I detested? I came up with a list when I was going to sleep last night, but I can't remember. Oh yeah, Odessa Young is Franny Goldsmith. Now, Franny was actually one of my favorite characters in the novel, and I'm not familiar with Odessa Young's performance. I went down her filmography, and I didn't really see anything I recognized, so she could be good, and they just wrote the character poorly. But in the novel, Franny is kind of the embodiment of in this child's innocence is what I'm going for. Yeah, she that contrasts really well with the bleakness of this world, and I love that. And her arc about just her being pregnant. Normally, pregnancy is a hard thing, and during the apocalypse, it's even harder. And I just think that's really interesting. But in the show, she just comes off as just overly self-righteous and just super judgmental, and I'm just not a fan of what they did. And a lot of the times, like from the beginning, she doesn't like Harold. And as the audience, we know that Harold's the bad guy, but at this point in the story, she doesn't know that. And like in the novel, when they first meet up after Captain Trips, she's actually nice to Harold. And she doesn't start realizing he's evil until about halfway through the book. But in the show, she's just mean to him from the beginning, which doesn't make any sense why they would leave together. Is there anyone else I hated other than those two? I understand that both of these are women, and that's just coincidental. I have no issue with women. And then I hinted at that fourth category. It's Ezra Miller as the trash can man. it isn't good or bad. It's just kind of there. It's like I don't know what you're going for, but I recognize that you put a lot of energy into this performance, and so I guess kudos for that. I don't know. It's so bizarre. He's only in a couple of scenes, and if he was in maybe more, we would have been able to understand what his deal is, but we don't. He's only in like a handful of scenes. And he's really, really weird and borderline offensive. And I don't understand that whole situation. So, now moving on to the story. This is probably the biggest problem I have with this series. Well, to be honest, the story of The Stand, and this kind of goes to Stephen King in general, he's not really focused on story so much as characters, and he even goes, he at often points, especially this is very evident in The Stand, he'll sacrifice narrative for characters. And the problem with this Stand, with this adaptation of The Stand, is that in the beginning they have this weird time jumpy thing, and that really kind of takes away from the beginning of the book when we're meeting these characters and sort of laying the foundation for what the story would later become. And it kind of robs us of that foundation, and so then when the end happens, we're not invested in these characters like we would have been if it was told chronologically. So that's a big issue. It kind of just skips over a lot of those moments. And my personal favorite part of the novel is kind of when our characters are going to Boulder, they run into just this weird craziness of the world that has the world that's kind of emerging after Captain Trips, and just this weird perverted America that Stephen King created is just amazing to me. Also, another part that I really liked that was completely just blown over, a little hint, kind of hinted at in the very first episode, was as Captain Trips was coming out and people were getting sick, the U.S. government tried to cover it up, and they covered it up till the very, very end. And they went so far as like killing journalists and that sort of thing. And there was even one scene, which I'll get to at the end of the video, but where a bunch of like ex-military men take over a recording studio and they're executing people on live television, and that is just it's beautiful and intense in only the way that Stephen King can do that, and I like it a lot. It's great. And that kind of brings me to my next point, because I had a comment by Alexander. I don't know I can't pronounce his last name. Sorry, guy. But he's been commenting on our videos a long time, and if you're following The Stand, you've probably seen his comments before. And he brings up a really good point in this comment right here. He basically says that The Stand, as it was written in 1979, is unfilmable now in 2021. And what he basically is saying is, it is filmable, but if you want to present the events the way they're presented in the novel, totally unfiltered and just gross and bare and just there, and you can't really show that even on a streaming service with more creative liberties, because just the audience isn't there for that. Like, mainstream audiences isn't capable of handling something like that. And he has an excellent point. I don't know if today's audience could handle something like that. Like, mainstream audience, obviously the book people that read the book, they get it. But as far as just like the larger audience of people that watch streaming TV, can they process that. I don't know. I would love to see The Stand adapted more accurately in the future, but I don't know if the audience is prepared for something like that. Finally, I would just like to say that I think the best adaptation for The Stand, and you can leave your comments up on this down below, but I think the best would be like a trilogy of movies, because, like I said, I bring this up like every week, but The Stand is split up into 3 main parts, and I think that if you just took a movie 2.5 hours long and just focused on each part, I think that would do the best justice for the source material. And I've heard the argument being said where you could make it into a TV show that's a couple seasons long. I wouldn't be opposed to that, although I don't think it would work as well. And so what would you think about that? What is your ideal mode of adaptation for The Stand? And what do you think about it being not filmable in today's society? And finally, what is your favorite Stand adaptation, the 2020 or 1994? I'm going to have to say 1994. But what do you think? Comment down below. And make sure to check the links in the description for our Facebook group and Instagram and our new podcast. Just came out with a new episode yesterday where we go over bad comic book movie reviews. And it was a lot of fun. So make sure you check that out. I will see you soon. I don't want to say tomorrow because I say that before and it doesn't happen. There's planning to be a video out tomorrow. Whether it is or not, I don't know. But I will see you soon. Peace out.